guitarist from Berlin. Today I'm going to talk about jazz theory. I'm going to talk about 5 things that I feel are neglected and not a lot of people talk about them. So the first thing that I want to talk about is if you're playing a 2-5-1 in major, you could also only think about playing the 2 chord or the 5 chord. So you don't have to play both chords, especially if the tempo is getting faster. It is all about tension and release. One thing that you could pay attention to is that you play maybe an F before you switch to the tonic and resolve that F to the E. Then you would have like a strong connection point between the 5 and the 1, or even the 2 and the 1. That being said, I just want to show you another example what you can play over the 2-5-1 leading to C major, and you can guess what it is. So I played the F-7 arpeggio or F-6 arpeggio instead of the D-7 G7. And of course that's possible. It's always only about tension and release. As long as you release your chord in the right place, it's not a problem. I really want to talk a little bit about harmonizing melodies and also about the 4 minor chord. As you probably already know, if you have a melody in C major, let's say it would be in C major, you can harmonize the melody with the 1 chord, the 4 chord and the 5 chord. It's a very good idea to practice accompanying easy melodies like children's songs with those 3 chords. When the saints... But what I want to show you, and now we're getting back to the 4 minor chord, is that you can implement the 4 minor chord in the tune. And the most common way a 4 minor chord is implemented is like 1, 4 major, 4 minor, 1. To be in that number when the birthday to you. Happy birthday, liebe Tina, happy birthday. So let's get back to a jazz standard. Let's have a look at the tune All of Me. All of Me, for example, has a 4 minor chord as well. So the greatest benefit would be if you recognize the 4 minor chord in the different tunes that you're playing. It's the same thing as recognizing the tonic or the secondary dominance, because after a while you just see it's the same thing and you also hear it, it's the same thing, and it will make it much more intuitive. I want to show you some very beautiful chords that you can use to play a nice 4 minor chords. I stole them from the Barry Galbraith book. This example is from Out of Nowhere, it's in G. And another example in bar 6 of rhythm changes in B flat, you very often have a 4 major chord leading to a 4 minor chord. In this case, and I stole that example again from Barry Galbraith, he's only playing the 4 minor chord, and that sounds very beautiful as well. If you look at the chords that you encounter in a major scale, there are 3 minor 7 chords. One is on the 2nd degree, which is normally referred to as the 2 chords, is the chord that is leading most of the time to a 5 and then to a 1. Let's say you are on C major and then there's an E minor 7 chord in that tune. You could make an educated guess that it is a replacement for a tonic chord. So if you play a turnaround in C major, like C major, A7, D minor 7, G7, many people would also play E minor 7, A7, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you would play E Dorian over that chord, because it doesn't sound so good. Because if you play E Dorian, that would be sort of a modulation, right? Because E Dorian, E minor 7, is on the 2nd degree of D major and then brings a lot of other notes into our key. We are still in C major. I'd like to demonstrate that. I'm going to record this turnaround. So I think you can hear that if you're playing E minor 7, A7, if you're playing E Dorian, A mixolydian, it doesn't sound as smooth as if you stay in one key. It's not a modulation. You can play an E minor on the E minor 7 chord. If it's on the 3rd degree, you can play the C major arpeggio. Sound great. Be sure that you recognize if you have a minor 7 chord on the 3rd degree, that you treat it as a tonic. So if you want to hear more of me, you can check out my Insta story. I'm reporting daily from my life as a female jazz musician in Berlin. Can tell you at the moment it's rather dull. It's a lot of practicing, but all those ideas that I have and the books that inspire me, I talk about them on my Instagram story. But if you don't like Instagram, or if you want to have a sort of a collection of all the things that I'm talking about in 1 week, you can go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter, and then you will get all my ideas and things collected in one newsletter each Friday, so you have a lot of inspiration for the coming weekend to practice. So let's talk about harmonic rhythm for a second. If you're playing a 2-5-1 in C major, 1 bar of D minor 7, 1 bar of G7, 2 bars of C major 7, it just sounds like it sounded in the beginning of the video. That's a very typical 2-5-1 progression, and it sounds like C major. But what's funny is if you would play the D minor 7 for 2 bars, the G7 for 1 bar, and the C major 7 for 1 bar, everything all of a sudden starts to sound different. If you don't want to get too theoretical, just play your Freddie Green chords, you know, like this. And then you will feel where the chords resolve. So the last thing that I want to talk about is diminished chord. And there's one very easy trick how you can find out if a diminished chord substitutes a dominant 7th chord. Just take a diminished voicing, whatever voicing you're playing, or this one, or this one. You move each finger 1 fret lower. So let's do that in the 8th fret. That would be C diminished. And then just move the first finger 1 fret lower. Then we would have B7 drop 2 voicing. This finger F7, drop 2 voicing, D7, and the last one, A to A flat. So then you know the 4 possibilities that this diminished chord could replace, and then you could think about the diminished chord in another way. Maybe it's just a secondary dominant, disguised secondary dominant, and then you just can play the arpeggio of the dominant 7th chord that has been hidden behind the diminished shape. Of course, there's still the diminished chord in itself, so if we would be in C major and it would be C diminished, that would be the real diminished chord that doesn't replace a dominant 7th chord. So that's it for today. I hope I could help you. Let me know if you have any questions, any suggestions for videos, and I see you around. Bye bye!